Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today's guest is a filmmaker whose work has captivated millions around the world. Norrie is a producer and a filmmaker, and he has produced nearly 50 independent documentaries that has appeared on platforms such as Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Fox, CBS, Roku, and more. His work dives into the fascinating world of strange phenomena, covering things like Bigfoot, UFOs, mindfulness, martial arts, as well as alternative medicine. So we're going to be talking to him about his films and everything that he's up to and going to be up to. So Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in California. I grew up in the southern part of California near Los Angeles. It's called the San Fernando Valley. And, I wrote a book that tells a little bit about my younger years because I grew up kind of nerdy at first, but then in high school, I started partying and I had a pretty wild life early on. And I ultimately was in the cannabis industry and I did all kinds of stuff in that world. And that led me to becoming a filmmaker. So that's kind of a condensed version of my life in a little bit of a nutshell.
Well, you produced nearly 50 documentaries. So what drew you to the strange phenomenon genre, and why do you feel like audiences connect so strongly with that?
Well, I grew up being interested in all that kind of stuff. Like even as a little kid, I loved space. I loved Star Wars. I love all that kind of thing. And then as I sold weed and what have you, I watched every documentary and every TV show about UFOs and Bigfoot and anything like that. Monster Hunters. I watched all those shows. So I got kind of like an education, if I dare say it, from all those shows. And when I was working on Cannabis Project, the co-producer that works with me now, he mentioned to me that we could do other topics other than cannabis, even though that seemed to be my expertise. If I had other interests, maybe I could work on projects like that. And he mentioned kind of some of those things like ghosts and what have you, that those projects sometimes earn money, that he had data from we use a couple different distributors. And so one of the distributors he had data from, and they had kind of told him what topics were doing really well on their platforms. And so he mentioned all these things. I was interested in a couple of those kinds of things. So one of the other ones was extreme sports. That's why we did martial arts. And I also did a women's wrestling thing. And not everything is hit. I have a lot of interests and I've done all kinds of movies based on my interests. But the UFO ones and the ones about Bigfoot, those did really well right away. And so that's part of why we keep going back to those topics, because the audiences really like them.
Well, out of all the topics that you cover, was there one that surprised you most during production?
Oh, I mean, the third movie we made was about Bigfoot, and I did not expect it to be as popular as it was. I thought we would have like a gradual increase on our movies. So I made two movies about that I thought were really important topics. It was about how cannabis can be used to treat cancer and other diseases. And I thought I did really good job on both those movies, but they didn't like go viral or anything. They got, some views, enough to pay for how much it costs to make them, basically. but not a ton of money. And then I made this Bigfoot movie, and we kind of just, it's not a phenomenal movie, in my opinion. It's pretty simple. Um, Two people we interviewed that were quasi experts on Bigfoot. One had like a Bigfoot YouTube channel and knew quite a lot. He was well spoken, and then the other one was more sciencey. And together we complimented them and made this Bigfoot movie, and bam, it got hundreds of thousands of views like right away. And even still, I mean, that movie's got millions of views across various platforms. So it's crazy, the ones that take off. Sometimes the ones you least expect.
Well, how do you balance telling stories that are both entertaining and credible when the topics may be mysterious or controversial?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's hard. You know, I like to give the audience the ability to make their own decisions. So I do try to ask the controversial questions, even if somebody is a true believer or they kind of already have their mind made up on what perspective they're taking on this subject matter. I will give them the counter, and try and present the counter argument in the film so that the audience isn't just getting a story from one perspective, that it's, this is what we think about this subject. Um, we give them the ability to kind of see, oh, there's multiple perspectives on this thing. You know, it could be a variety of things.
Where you've won 30 plus awards. So, talk about what do you think that sets your filmmaking style apart from others in the documentary filmmaking space?
So I've been told that what I just mentioned is something that other filmmakers don't do. I've interviewed quite a lot of people, and every now and then I'll get a pretty nice compliment. And I that happened to me recently from someone who had, I know they've been interviewed by CNN and they've been interviewed by all the major players. And I asked, "What do you think? Why did you give me this compliment that I'm a good interview uh, or director or what have you?" And so he told me that I gave him the ability to speak. That a lot of other directors are feeding them lines like, re-say this thing, or can you say this for me, and or say it again but say it this way, and that kind of stuff. Or they're combative. That was the other thing that they mentioned, is that they can be argumentative, trying to get a rise out of them so that they can get this kind of hot footage. And I'm not really going for that. I'm going for the true story. And so, from my perspective, I'm not trying to influence their answer in any sort of way. But I can re-ask questions and kind of dig deeper if I'm missing, if they're not complete thought or something. But yeah, I think that's the thing that makes me different, is that I'm a little bit nicer to the people I'm interviewing.
Well, let's talk about your book. Tell the listeners about your book, what they can expect when they read it, and talk about how your experiences in the cannabis industry shape your perspective on filmmaking.
Sure. So I did write a book. Um, I make movies that are generally positive, but like I just said, a lot of people are going for the negative. And so I have all these crazy stories from my days in the cannabis industry that people like to hear. And it's kind of, exhausting to tell some of these stories. I don't like reliving these moments, especially. And so there was the opportunity for me. I had some time kind of open up, and I wrote this book. I started it when I was young, and I didn't finish it for 10 years. And then I kind of stumbled upon how to finish it, and then it all became my book about all the terrible things that happened in my life in the cannabis industry. So it is all the times I got home invaded, all the times I got robbed, all the times that I got arrested or nearly arrested, and they're all together in this book that I wrote called Jack Moves.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Should share one of the dangerous moments that you experienced while trying to film in the semi-illegal cannabis event.
Sure, sure. So one of the one of the dangerous moments. Hmm. Well, I was home invaded numerous times. So I have two home invasion stories in the book. One of them, I just woke up and people were in my house. And the other one was people that I was selling pot to that I was a little bit kind of suspicious of. So I prepared a little bit in a way for that one. And that one got kind of it, I was fortunate that it didn't get more serious because it was pretty dangerous. There was a moment where it seemed like I might get shot. You know, I was fighting back and kind of. It was a scary time. What can I say?
We'll talk about the American Autoflower Cup. It's a unique product, so a unique project. So talk about how what inspired you to create it and how it ties into your creative journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So the American Autoflower Cup is my current event that I produce in the cannabis industry. Uh, I became a director because I was doing these like very prominent events in the cannabis industry, and that's kind of where my career in cannabis ended, as these events ended with legalization and rules that we previously didn't have, and a more competitive scene. I kind of lost my identity in that world, and I thought I would never produce another event. But some companies from Europe presented the opportunity to do this event called the American Autoflower Cup. And it is primarily focused on a certain type of cannabis called autoflower. Traditional cannabis is based on the sun. So a lot of growers will recognize that they have a vegetative period and they have a flowering period. When vegetative period, you have a lot of light that you can give your plants. When it's flowering period, you change the light sequence, and that pushes your plant into flowering, and then you're giving them a much lower amount of light during that period of time. Autoflower, that's not how it works at all. They can take 24 hours of light even from the day they come out till the day they're finished, and they grow based on their maturity. They've been kind of bred from these equatorial or kind of northern uh, climates where they have long periods of sunlight, and these plants adapted to their long periods of sun that are present in these various different areas. And so that genetic has been kind of bred into all these different kinds of cannabis. And we do a competition amongst all the growers who are at the pinnacle of this autoflower thing in the United States. I feel very lucky to be doing it.
We'll talk about the role that documentaries play on shaping public perception when it comes to misunderstood or unconventional topics.
Oh, yeah. So documentaries can actually change things. It's really interesting how that works because it's so difficult to fight certain things the traditional way, where you're, maybe filing paperwork or going through the proper laws and doing things the way that they're kind of designed to be done. A documentary can generate so much attention to a subject matter that it can create action. One of these things that's really common is when people have seen maybe a crime documentary where it's a murder or some sort of thing that exposes some sort of uh, thing that maybe the authorities missed, and they can reopen the case and look into some of these things that the documentary suggested. That's a really powerful moment in life. And a lot of times it's environmental. Maybe a documentary brings up something about uh, fishing or the way that our food is being made, and it inspires progress in all these different ways. So hopefully documentaries can lead to positive change in life, and otherwise they're just entertainment, and that's a good thing too.
Well, looking ahead, are there any other phenomena or untold stories you're looking to tell in the future? Or what projects are you working on upcoming that listeners need to be aware of?
Absolutely. So I just wrapped a bunch of projects. So I have a series of alternative medicine projects that are going to be coming out. I interviewed a ketamine clinic expert and a red light therapy expert and a couple of mycologists, and I did a Cambo ceremony. So I did all these things in the alternative medicine world. I even interviewed yoga instructors and a lot of mainstream types of perspectives. So uh, it's a ton of footage. We're probably going to have a bunch of projects that I make out of that stuff. And then I also have some more out there stuff. I did an astrology thing. Uh, I shot an astrology documentary 5 years ago, and this year it started making money out of nowhere. So me and my partner decided it would be a good idea to tackle astrology again. So I interviewed 5 different astrology teachers who have similar but different perspectives on this subject of astrology and why they did it and what they get out of it and all these different things. Um, and so we're doing that. And then I am doing the story of the Raelians, which some people say is a UFO cult. And I thought they were very nice people. I interviewed 3 different Raelians, including the main Raelian, Thomas, in the United States. And that's going to be a really interesting project. So those are all wrapped, and they're over at the co-producer in the post-production process. I am going to start some new projects next year. I might do a Bigfoot project. I'm going to do an experiencer project with a bunch of people who have either been abducted or they have experienced UFOs or aliens or entities of some kind, and they've got stories to tell. So we got that. I'm going to try and follow up with Paul Hynek, who is the son of the famous Dr. Hynek from Project Blue Book. And we're going to try and tell that story. And he has some interesting interests himself. So we might get into some of those subjects too. I got a bunch of stuff to work on this next year. I know another guy named Gene, who is a UFO expert on these Russian projects. And I don't know enough about it to really speak on it, but I think I would really love to learn from him and do a project with him in the next year too. So,
Well, when it comes to UFOs, you might check on podmatch.com and interview a veteran that I just interviewed. His name is M.D. Silic.
I've
He
never heard of
talks.
him.
Yeah, he is Michael Silic. He talks about UFOs, and I just recently interviewed him and dropped this episode.
Cool. Yeah, those are the kind of people I like to talk to. So,
Yeah, I'll see if I can look up his information and get it to you. But throw out your contact information so listeners can keep up with everything that you're up to.
absolutely. My website is theskyisland.com. And that has links to all my business social pages. So my Instagram, my Twitter, and all those things. Most of them are just at Sky Island Storytelling. That's the name of my production company. And we're making all these things. So you can go on IMDb and look up my name, Jeremy Norrie, and that will take you to my filmography, and everything except YouTube is on there. So you'll get links to where you can watch all the various different films if there's anything you're interested in. And then you can also get all the names of the films. So if you wanted to see them on YouTube, pretty much everything I've got is also on YouTube. You can look them up by name, or there is a filmography section with links to most of the stuff. I'm a little slow at updating, but it's all on my website as well.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you who are into strange phenomena, Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Check out Jeremy's book, check out his films, check out his website. Keep up with everything that he's going to be up to. And for more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, please visit www.curveball337.com and share the website and the show to everybody you know. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And Jeremy, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.